Okay, so hey everyone, welcome to this lab. So in today's lab, what we are going to do is we are going to create a network load balancer. In the previous lab, we went ahead and used an application load balancer, but in this lab, we are going to use a network load balancer. So pretty much most of the configuration should remain the same as you did with the application load balancer. So let's get started. So step one is to go ahead and look at Amazon Certificate Manager, where you do have the certificate already created. And you can go ahead and create a certificate by clicking on request certificate and go with a public certificate, and then go ahead and mention your domain name. Let's say, for example, it's zerosinitiative.com. You can also add additional names for your certification, probably www.zerosinitiative.com, and then go ahead and click on next. And you can either choose between DNS validation and email validation. With DNS validation, you can go ahead and add your CNAME records for SSL certification validation to your domain registrar, whether it be GoDaddy or it can be Route 53. If it's Route 53, ACM is automatically going to add that certificate records for you. But you can also go with email validation, where you specify that you are the owner of this domain, and you can go ahead and validate through the email link that you get to this account. But generally, the administrator of your AWS account will be having the email address. So probably you can ask him for the email validation to be done. But generally, you can go with DNS validation. And when you click on next, all you have to do is associate tags, click on review, and click on confirm and request. Since I do already have an ACM certificate over here that which we are going to reuse for this particular lab, I'm not going to go ahead and create a new one. So since our ACM certificate is already created, the first step that we are going to do right now is go ahead and launch two EC2 instances across two different availability zones for high availability purposes. So let's go to EC2. So right now we are in this running instances dashboard. Let's go ahead and launch an instance. So I'm going to choose this Amazon Linux AMI over here. I'm going to go with T2 micro. And over here, I'm going to choose the availability zone to be US East 1A for the first instance. And in my user data script, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of bash script over here, which you guys are already familiar about. So you're updating the operating system. You're installing the HTTPD server. You're starting the HTTPD server with service HTTPD start. Check config HTTPD on to keep it running through restarts of the server. We are traversing into the directory and we are echoing out hello world to index.html. Okay. So this is our bash script. I'm just going to go ahead and copy the script so that I'll be able to reuse it on the next instance. Click on add storage. We are okay with 8 GB of storage right now. On the tags, I'm just going to call this as NLB instance 1. And for the security group, I'm going to reuse one of the security groups that I created for the previous lab, for the application load balancer lab, wherein we have port 22 restricted towards my IP address and 80 and 443 open to the outside world. Click on review and launch, click on launch. And I'm going to go ahead and choose this keypad that I already have and click on launch. So I'm going to go ahead and launch one more EC2 instance in another availability zone. Choose the same AMI, choose the same T2 micro configuration. But this time I'm going to place it in US East 1B. I'm going to scroll down, paste my bash script, click on add storage. I'm okay with 8 GB for right now. Add tags. I'm going to go ahead and call this as NLB instance 2. I'm going to reuse the same security group as that of the previous instance. Review and launch, launch. I acknowledge that I have the keypad, click on launch. So in the meantime that both of your instances are launching, let's go ahead and look at how do we go ahead and create a network load balancer. So let's go to load balancers. And we don't have any load balancer created over here. Let's go ahead and create a brand new load balancer. But instead of application load balancer, what we are going to do over here is go ahead and create a network load balancer. And you can see over here, operating at the connection level, the network load balancer are capable of handling millions of requests per second. One more thing to remember, the network load balancer does not have a security group, if I'm not mistaken. So it shouldn't have a security group, because when you are working with the application load balancer, it does have a security group, but I don't think with the network load balancer, you will get a security group. So you would generally use network load balancers in scenarios wherein you would like to connect to an active directory on TCP or UDP port, or at the same time, you would like to use a network load balancer to go ahead and connect to any VPC link within your API gateway configuration, where you would like to access your VPC services from your API gateway endpoints. You can also use a network load balancer, and I used this once when I was working with Rancher in order to go ahead and have an Active Directory integration. I specified the network load balancer's DNS name, and this network load balancer was connected towards the Active Directory. So these are certain scenarios wherein you would possibly use a network load balancer for very high throughput and to manage and maintain that ultra low latencies. So let's go ahead and create a network load balancer. I'm going to keep it internet facing, call this as my NLB. And I'm going to add one more listener over here, which is TLS, which is secure TCP. And I'm going to place this network load balancer across multiple availability zones. I'm going to the next configuration where I'm going to add my security certificate. So I'm going to go ahead and add my security certificate, which is from ACM, which is the zerosinitiative.com certificate. And you can see over here the security policy based on the cipher suites, like I mentioned. Let it be the same. And we are not going to worry ourselves with this application layer protocol negotiation for right now. We are going to leave that as none. Okay. And this helps you regarding the perfect forward secrecy with all of the different cipher suites that this particular security policy provides you with. So let's go to configure routing. I'm going to call this target group as default NLB TG. I'm going to leave it as instance, and even the port is going to be TCP or port 80, because again, HTTP is where our application is running, but then we are still using the TCP port 80 in order to do all of our health checks. And the health check is not going to consider any kind of return status code. It's totally fine, because with application load balancers, you would like to get that response code back because it's working on the HTTP layer. But since this is working on the TCP IP layer, you really don't need to have any kind of response codes over here coming back to you. So let's go ahead and click on register targets. And we are going to add both of our instances on port 80 as registered targets. Click on next review, click on create. So I'm going to pause this until the network load balancer is up and running. Okay, so as you can see right now that our network load balancer has come to the active status, and it does have a 443 on TLS with the ACM certificate that we associated with it. So the next step that we have to do is go to Route 53 and create a DNS record of whatever name that you would like, and do an alias record to your network load balancer's DNS name. So now if we take this DNS name and we open up an incognito window and paste it on the browser, we should be able to see the traffic is on HTTP. But if we try to move it to HTTPS, we should be able to see that it's secure and it's using a valid certificate which is issued by Amazon. So you can see that even with a network load balancer, we will still be able to go ahead and have TLS certificates that are terminating on the network load balancer itself. And we will have a later lecture wherein we talk about a TLS certificate that is terminating on the EC2 instance rather than the network load balancer. Okay. So I hope you got a really good idea as to how to create a network load balancer with a TLS certificate, and also create your own domain name in Route 53 and go ahead and associate your record. Sorry, just a second. Yeah, associate your record to Route 53 to a DNS name, to an alias record, to your network load balancer, and then use this DNS name to access your website over the HTTPS protocol. So I hope you got a really good idea. I'll catch you in the next session. Thank you guys.